Hello and welcome to the Empower Couples podcast, where here you get modern, non-boring relationship advice for you and your partner to communicate like pros, fight smarter, and stay on the same team no matter the challenge that you face. I'm one of your hosts, Aaron Freeman.
And I'm Jocelyn Freeman, but you all just know us as the Freemans.
And this episode is about trust and being able to count on each other through these four critical things.
Now, I know trust can feel like a buzzword, and it's easy to have certain things come to mind when you hear that word, right? Like the big ones, do you trust them to not be unfaithful? Do you trust them financially? And of course, that's a part of this conversation, but we're really going to get into the deeper layers of being able to count on each other like rock solid, no matter what, through good times, through hard times. I can count on you as a teammate. Not just with the big things, but all of the little things that add up in our lives.
We've been having quite a few conversations this week with couples about trust, about how that connects to integrity, how that connects to your word. So that's really a foreshadowing of where we're going here today. And I start with this analogy. Now, what we're going to go into is actually brought forth in the personal development realm by a guy named Werner Erhard. Been around for,
He's
long
up there.
time. I mean, was doing work back in the 50s. So he's in his 80s, almost 90 now. And we went to a 10-day event called Being a Leader, in which case integrity was brought forth. And we want to use that today to talk about integrity within a relationship, but again, not from this place of like big breaches of trust, like being unfaithful, for example, or financial or emotional breaches of trust like you're talking about, but getting down to it, integrity is needed for workability. And the level of your workability or integrity then gets you to a place of higher level performance. So this is even the analogy I think that they give at the event. The event for us, what was it, 8 years ago now?
Yeah, I mean, and we've done work because he's created many programs, and we've done like even his early on seminars. They've been really incredible. I mean, I was doing some of his work before I met you, and thank goodness I did. Otherwise, you would have been with a different kind of person.
I think it did raise our own ability to be conscientious, to be organized and structured, and then ultimately to have integrity and be more accountable. To be honest, if I didn't do that in the beginning of our marriage, I think we would have had some more struggles.
I know what for
I'm
sure.
I'm super grateful for you introducing me to that work, and then obviously intrinsic motivation, right, to continue. But the analogy of workability to performance is a wheel. Now, like I said in a few sessions this past week, if you're around my age or older, then the image of the bicycle I want you to imagine is the one with all those spokes. I don't even know, like 100 spokes. And I think for some of the boys, we put the baseball cards in it, so it sounded like a motorcycle. I think for the girls, there were those little plastic pieces that were of various colors that would, go around the wheel. So either way, think of all those spokes. Now, integrity is about the integrity of those spokes. And at the highest level, if every spoke is in integrity, the wheel can perform at its optimal, at its highest level. Now, if one spoke is damaged, it doesn't take away from the wheel's function, but it starts to diminish from performance to workability. And the more spokes that go out, the lower workability, the lower even the function, until at some point the wheel will just flop over, like it'll just fall apart and you can't even ride your bike. So that's the analogy for integrity. And where we want to go here today is, what does that look like in terms of your word? And how do you maintain integrity and trust in your relationship? And the question is, well, why? From this standpoint, you can have a marriage that doesn't work, that does work, that has workability, or operates at its highest level of performance. So if you're interested in that progression, then you have to be looking at integrity.
And I know as Aaron describes that using words like workability, performance, integrity, it can give off this energy of feeling either like professional, right, or lacking romance. But this isn't about not being a romantic partnership. And I find it so funny on certain posts of ours where we're showing accountability, we're showing proactive communication, we're talking about things like integrity. There will be certain people who are just like, this isn't a job. Like, I shouldn't have to act like this, outside of my work environment. And to me, it's such an odd mindset because shouldn't our home life get the best of us? Like, what, you're supposed to just be this great person at work, someone who has to be accountable to their word, who really thinks about the impact you have on the team, who's showing up the best that you can just because it has a tie to your income as well as your sense of purpose. But then what? You can go home and just kind of give not your best? It's such a backwards mindset. Now, our home environment isn't a work environment. We have a ton of fun. We're playful. We're quirky. We have great conversations. We're flirty. But we also hold ourselves to high standards of
I just thought of this. So, I don't want to keep on going back to workability and performance, but to what you just said, you, the listener, you're not going to really be able to get to the fun, the joy, the ease. That's the performance side. That's the high level performance. Love, joy, playfulness, flirting with one another, ease, peace, harmony. You can't get there if you're not operating at this level of integrity that is just workable. If your partner can't trust on you and count on you, I think I said that backwards, trust you or count on you, then you're always going to have this emotional wedge. You're going to have this eroded or slightly diminished level of trust and reliability on one another. Then you're not going to have the place for this environment of these higher level states that get created, these romantic states that can get created in a relationship.
Absolutely.
There'll always be something in the space.
And it's also going to make you more prone to unnecessary arguments. And so there's really nothing to just... We got to get over defending ourselves, right? So if our partner brings up something that we were quote unquote supposed to do or we promised to do, and we're going to get into these 4 elements of integrity here, make them very specific. But if our partner brings it up or we realize it, why defend ourselves? There's just my integrity or I'm not in integrity.
Make one more comment that I'll direct towards the men, which I feel like I'm able to do.
Sure.
So there is really... The first idea here I want you to take away is that the lower the trust, and again, we're not talking about these big breaches, but the lower integrity you have to your word, then the more reactive a partner is going to be. Now, I can either defend myself, get into a defensive stance, or I can initially focus on, have I been in integrity with these 4 things that we want to go into? If not, that's the place I should go look at first. I don't need to stand around and defend myself to my partner.
Point the finger at them.
Point the finger, get further upset, escalate things wait, hold on a second. I'm not fully in integrity. So let me go handle that. And then I'll come back. At that point, if your partner has more dynamics or upsets or offenses, then here's the stance. I can have a stance of being settled, of being grounded, of being at peace and having a level of confidence in the way I've been showing up, my actions and behaviors, to where whatever you, and I'm actually pointing to Jocelyn, whatever you may have to say to me, if I take a quick snapshot in my mind and in my body and my emotions, and I know I've been in integrity from these 4 places, what is there for me to get escalated about? What is there for me to defend against?
Yeah.
I'm going to be settled in my own emotion. And okay, hey, I hear you.
Hold a steadiness.
Even if you don't like it, even if you, and I know that I'm fully in integrity, then what is there for me to defend against?
And as Aaron starts off with these 4 aspects of trust and of integrity, it's great to really start to give yourself a self-assessment. Because that's what Aaron did. It was so great on the sessions this last week was he had both partners kind of answer what percentage would you say you are on each of these. So use this as a self-assessment and see opportunities where you can be an even better partner. Because again, our premise is that if you start to see that integrity is a part of the foundation of your partnership, just like the foundation of a home, it doesn't matter if you're doing date night. It doesn't matter if you're watching movies together, you're being cuddly, you're being flirty, because the foundation is weak. It's getting cracks in it. So I hope that is really clear how important this is for all of the positive things that you want in the relationship.
Yeah, so let's restate this again. What we're doing here from you listening is you're further building trust, safety, and security in your relationship. How you do that is being a person of integrity. What does that mean? If you're a person of integrity, it means you're a person of your word. Okay, where is my word in practical reality? So here are the 4 places to be your word. Number 1, what you say you will do. So this is the one that everyone would think of, right? And there's 3 more. But the obvious one is, what have you said you were going to do? Did you follow through, and did you keep to what you said?
What's important to remember, and we've talked about this on different episodes, is when you make promises to your partner, even if it seems like it's something small, right? It has to live for you like you just gave your word to that. It doesn't matter big or small, and you don't want to say yes or promise things out of compliance, right? If you've heard our episodes before, you want to be giving promises out of commitment that you really are committed to following through. Whether it's today, this week, this year, like whatever the timeline is, it's something that you are actually going to keep top of mind. And this isn't just for task-oriented things, like let's say household things, right? Like you said, you're going to get better at cleaning this thing up, or you're going to pay that bill. All those things are included. These can also be for more emotionally linked promises that you make. You say you're not going to yell anymore during arguments. Or you're not going to attack their character, because you use our guides to create agreements for times of conflict. For anyone who's new here, we have various instant access guides that you can get, some for de-escalating conflicts, repair, etc. But there's a part where we have you create agreements for times of conflict. And if you give your word to that, then you can't just say, well, I got mad. Then you are controlled by your emotions. So we give our word even to emotional things. Okay, you know what, honey? I'll be more present when I'm home. I know I've been on my phone a lot. I know I've been focusing on work a lot. So you say, I'm going to be more present and engaged. That is your word. Even though it's more intangible, it's a little harder to measure in a sense, you still are giving your word to it. So I just want to make sure that that's very clear. It's not just for task oriented or like very clear, specific actions.
Yeah, so the difference as we move on is this is very explicit, even if it's slightly more conceptual or abstract. If you say you're going to do something, then you do it. And I say that because the second one now is more implicit, what you know to do. So you're being integral, being a person of your word. Secondly is about what you know to do. And I would say this is the ownership as well as the slight insight and initiative into things that you see and you know you should do, and the easy place to go is through like roles and responsibilities. So it doesn't mean that you specifically said, I will take out the trash when it's at the top. And if I'm walking around the house and I'm a person of integrity, because this is a part of my home as well, and I have responsibility to keep it organized and up to our certain standard, then when I pass the trash, this is just the first one that came to my mind, I know someone needs to take that out, and I see it, so it's going to be me.
Yeah.
So it's more implicit. Do you have any other specific examples? Like home items is a good one, just about organization, about structure. You don't have a specific promise about it. And so maybe it is about making a lunch for the kids. That's probably one for me to go to as well. I know that our daughter is going to need a lunch, right? There's 2 of us. One of us is going to have to do it. If you're upstairs and you're, helping our daughter get ready, and I know that she needs a lunch, Should you have to tell me? Should I have to make a promise? No, it's a part of my responsibility, not only as a dad, but as a partner. I look around, what needs to be done in here for us to be operating, again, at a peak performance. Let me make this lunch.
I love those examples. Some others that are, again, like less task oriented that come to mind are even about like the standard of partner that I know we both like aim to be, in a sense. Like the first thing that came to mind was, for example, how we will talk about each other to other people. So even if early on in our relationship, we never explicitly said, you know, hey, let's not talk about our arguments to like friends or family. So we never had that conversation. Well, I know in my mind the kind of partners that we want to be. So that's a part of my integrity. Like that is about the standard I'm setting. So that's what comes to mind. I think it's also just about if we are creating this true partnership, you know, we haven't agreed on a traditional role set as some people do, then I want to be operating as a full team member. And I think the examples that you gave are really great.
Yeah, so in that case, we can move to the third one. This is where people get tripped up the most. So this is that having integrity means that you're responsible for what is expected of you. Now, I know expectation is maybe a trigger word, certainly a key word in the work that we do in communication. But now we go a little bit beyond to the idea that the way you act and behave creates a perception, right? And it does for your family members, for coworkers, for friends, and certainly with your partner. And for example, like if you're someone that is on time, if you're courteous, if you're kind, being gracious, being, let's say, structured and organized,
Communicative.
and even being, open in communication, open with your emotion, being forthright. All of those behaviors kind of create an expectation. And some people would really fight against this because you think, well, I'm not responsible for people's expectations of me. But in a sense, through your behavior and through your attitude, through your habits, I could say, you do create expectations. So there's a way that me as Aaron Freeman, I'm expected to be as a partner. And this one might, if I think for myself, there's a certain expectation of I'm very social with people. And this is probably one that you have brought up before. And I'm very open, engaged, inquisitive. I'm a great conversationalist with others. I'm very present with others. So there's an expectation there because you could say that's who I am. Now, if I show up differently with you, and this has happened before, right? You've mentioned at certain times that I'm even sort of better with a stranger. This has been at times, right? You could fill in.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. And it's not all the time.
Yeah.
There's just been maybe seasons where I felt that.
So based on my personality and my habits, I set up the who I am, which is really just an expectation out here of my attitude, of me being just as present, as engaged, as open, as communicative with you as I would be with someone else, because that's how I've painted myself. That's the perception of me. So it's really about keeping and maintaining that perception. Now, again, do I need to be completely responsible, or can I control people's perceptions? No, but integrity is being able to manage and create the perception or the expectations in those around me. And what that means is being so open and authentic and proactive with my communication, and I'm really managing the expectation, because it's also about being clear about what can not be expected of me.
Yes.
Right? Because if I'm showing up in a certain way, I'm always on time, I'm always pleasing, I'm always open, I'm always agreeable with people, then what happens is, in a situation, people are going to expect me to be just as agreeable. So I can leave a conversation giving the perception that I'm going to act on something or take an action, or that I agreed with something that you wanted us to do, for example. And if I'm unclear and I just left the expectation be out there, it's going to create an upset. So being at the highest level of integrity means I'm on the lookout. Where is my behavior, my action, my lack of communication creating an expectation that's going to be unmet.
I mean, it was so perfect the way you explained that. I don't even think there's anything more for me to add. Truly, because I love that you emphasized the proactive mindset, right? And really setting people up for success and communicating if you can't expect something from me, which is something I think I know you and I do that prevents a lot of conflict, miscommunications, unmet expectations is we talk about where we're at capacity wise, mentally, energy. You know, if there's something that we just are like, you know what, I'm feeling pretty overwhelmed this week. I'm feeling pretty tapped out. Just, you know, you won't be able to count on me for blank, or I'm not going to probably be the best today. Right. So I think that proactive communication is everything.
Yeah. Now, before we move on, let me just say this. So if you're operating at 100% integrity in this particular area, similar to what I said from the last one, now when someone approaches you, like your partner, with an upset, with a missed expectation that you can't control, because you can't control everyone's perception and expectation of you, what is the difference? I'm settled. I'm grounded. I'm able to be with the communication that is coming to me. I can receive it from a place of being settled, confident, and grounded, that I, to my very best ability, had managed the expectations through my communication, and I'll link in the other two, through what I knew to do, through following through on what I said I would do. Now I can stand in front of anyone with any upset knowing I was in full integrity for myself. Then what is there for me to defend against?
Exactly. So those three, in and of themselves, if you just focus on those, you would be a next level partner, parent, person. Those are huge, but we're going to take it to the next level. And this is truly, if you want to be not just a good partner, not just a great partner, but an extraordinary partner.
Wow.
And that people, when they look at you, they look at your family, you leave a mark on them. I know I'm like really creating some hype on this one, but truly, like when people look in your direction, they look at you, your family, the kind of life that you're living, they'll remember you, and they'll, in a sense, even really admire you. Right? So anyway, that's my lead up to Aaron. Tell us the fourth one.
This fourth level of integrity is that you are aligned with what you say you stand for. So some people like the term alignment. So it's that your actions are aligned with what you say, not that what you would do, like number one, but what you stand for. So if I say that I value, or I'm a stand for family, or for communication, or for peace, or for gentle parenting, or a healthy lifestyle, for whole and complete relationships in my life. The difference being what I say versus what my behavior is actually demonstrating.
So I know for some people, the term like what you stand for may be new, right? It's not like things people use in their everyday language. But when you take a stand for something, it basically means that you are really committed to that. You're devoted to that. It is what, in a sense, you're giving your life to. So the obvious things that people can think of is like when people really take a stand in like either a political sense or in the community, right? Like they're either creating a nonprofit or they're leading the march on something. They share about things online. That's coming from a stand that they take in the world. A lot of times it's for either injustices that they see or people who aren't as fortunate. But we can also just take a stand for the way we want our marriage to be, our family to be. And this is so key in a sense to like having a vision is another way you could think of this, having a commitment to something, because you've probably heard us say on episodes before that human beings by default will just resort to survival, because the brain is built for survival. So you can wake up, Monday through Friday can be Groundhog Day. You get up, you get the kids ready, you go to work, you come home, it's dinner time, you get tired, go to bed, next day. And of course, that's a part of life. Like we feel Groundhog Day sometimes too. But when you really create a greater vision for your marriage, it's not just that I want us to survive life together. I don't want us to just be married for 50 years. I'm taking a stand. You and I were talking about this the other day, and truly, like, tears can come to my eyes. Like, I see the vision of you and I, the kind of marriage that we will have and do have, but for the rest of our lives, whose Sky will become in our presence and from our leadership and our modeling, the relationship she can have and the generations beyond us. And I know that may seem like really big picture, but think for yourself. Like, what is the stand that you want to take? Like, no matter the adversity you face, no matter the challenges that you face as a couple, as an individual, you are devoted to, you are committed to blank. What is that? What is your stand, your commitment for yourself and for the generations even beyond you?
Mm-hmm. So then I think that also the additional benefit here is that you're not as impulsive. You don't just act on feeling. Mm-hmm. So if I say that I'm a stand for something like family, then in the moments where I feel like you're criticizing me and I feel disrespected, right? I'm either going to act on this upset impulse, or I can have my actions and behavior be aligned to what I stand for, which is, you can just put it simply, like a good relationship, that there's respect. So for me, this is the key part of integrity, to not just act impulsively. It's that your actions are focused in the medium to then long term for what you're committed to, not just in the short term feeling. And I think this would be a whole maybe other podcast. I personally feel as if there's a certain part of our culture that we live in now that is so based on, this is how I feel, and I'm also justified that I feel this way, and this is the truth, that I'm now able to act in any way that I want. But it's so short term. You're sacrificing something short term for this potential long term of, say, being someone that shows up in such a way that impacts other people, even your children, right? It's like, if I am impulsive and I feel like I'm right and I'm justified, that I can say anything to you, and I'm pointing to Jocelyn, then that is sacrificing the future of our daughter seeing me as a certain husband or an example of a partner that she might want.
Yeah.
So it's always, there's a choice, but are you focused impulsively in the short term, or is this integrity to a stand having you focus your prediction on the medium to long term to be aligned with the bigger stand and commitment that you say you are?
As you were talking, I was really visualizing the times after an argument, right? So for those of you who are newer to us, we talk a lot about repair, because it's a place where people did not see great modeling, right? They don't know how to repair after an argument without restarting the argument, for example, not going days of being silent towards each other. And although you and I can get annoyed with each other, frustrated, even mad, you and I, our stand is that we are connected. Our stand is that our home is vibrant, alive, happy, joyful. Doesn't mean we're not perfect. We have our moods, you guys, but that's our stand. And so we set aside our pride. We set aside the parts of us that wants to be right sometimes. No, I'm going to hold off. They're going to come up to me, even if it takes 3 days. No, we don't do that dance, you guys. That's our stand. So we both step up to the plate and we repair as fast as possible, while still making sure that we identify the root cause. We don't just step over things and just a quick I'm sorry and brush things under the rug. And that's because of our stand for what kind of a home, what kind of a marriage that we have and that our daughter experiences. And for a lot of you, I know that you struggle with repair. And if you're hearing this and you want to step up your stand for what kind of a home you have as a couple for your family, and you want to get better at how you repair, get our Making Up and Moving Forward guide. It truly is like a must-have. You can pull it up on your phone, you can print it out, and use the steps to repair afterwards, because it also gives you reflective prompts so that you can even think before you go up to your partner about what you want to say, and it's all listed there for you. So you want to go to the links where you can see all of our resources. It's at meetthefreemans.com/links. You'll see our making up and moving forward guide. You'll see our de-escalating conflicts guide. We have several resources, and make sure you use them, because we don't want you to just hear these podcasts, get motivated. Yes, Freeman's integrity, taking a stand for things. We want you to put it into action consistently. And that's where our resources are. So go to meetthefreemans.com/links to see all of those great resources.
And with the last minute here, I want to paint a picture that's authentic, because with this stand, and I love the stand that you declared, for you listening, there's knowing what your stand is, there's declaring it, and then there's the percent of being in integrity that you are with that. So there's different components, right? So I don't want you to think that we're 100% in every one of these categories. Now, we've been in this work for a long time. And of anything in our life, structure, integrity, and accountability is the main thing that we probably focused on. So what we want you to do, the listener, take these 4 areas and rate yourself. And we'll be honest with where we're at. The first ones probably are not going to be too surprising. What you say you will do. So rate yourself as a listener. Now, for us, well, for me, we can do both. I'm at 100%. I'm pretty close. Like, for various reasons, even about agreeableness and pleasing. And there's something that's innate in me. Whatever I learned specifically from this personal development, when I say I'm going to do something, I do it.
Yeah. I would say that I'm maybe 95 to 97%, just with the little things that I can let fall through the cracks. And the excuse I can give is like being a mom to a toddler and trying to build a business. But I know that there's little things from time to time that I say to you I'm going to do, and I either forget or not even forget. Actually, it usually just gets delayed because of my capacity. But I don't defend myself. I just own up to it and say the next time, like when I'm going to do it.
Yeah. So as a listener, second one, rate yourself, percent 0 to 100. This is like an integrity rating of you following through on what you know to do. Now, I put myself at about still 95% on what I know to do, possibly even higher. The thing for me, which actually links to number 4, is do I always do it in the best attitude? So, no, but I'll do it.
One.
I'll look around and I'll know what there is to do. Throw something away that's been in the fridge too long. Put one of Sky's toys away. There's just a lot of stuff in the house that I know to do, that one of us is going to have to do. There is one, I don't know if I want to admit it.
Okay.
I don't know if this is too much for this podcast. It's over there right now.
Oh, the poopy
there
underwear.
Is some poopy underwear
from our daughter, not ourselves.
from our 2-year-old that I know there is to do that. And they've been sitting in there, and to be honest, I have, without verbalizing it, let that fall on you. So there's my 5%.
But you know what's so funny about that is I know that, like, I see them there. In a sense, I know you're leaving them there for me, but I don't take offense to it because there's so many other things that I don't even have to ask you to do. And then do you remember the other day where I made the remark of how I know you really don't like cleaning the pans when we just cooked bacon because of all the grease? And I always see it there waiting, right?
I pour the grease in a jar and I put it in the freezer, but as far as cleaning then the rest of the pan?
Yeah, and I know it's there, and to be honest, like, I kind of giggle when I see it because I know you just don't want to do it, but it's okay, again, because of all the other things that I see you just step up and do.
Yeah. So number 3, again, as a listener, rating yourself, level of integrity for what is expected. Now, for me, did I say 85?
No, you said like 95.
Before. Oh, 95, what is expected? So in these last 2, I know the place that I get in trouble is around my level of agreeableness. So I'll put these 2 together. So something like 85 for what is expected and something around 85 for what I stand for. And where I do fall short is in regards to other people, even as far as a landscaper or a contractor, a friend. I'm almost too concerned with upsetting someone or offending, or then there being kind of a confrontation, that's where my 15% is, where I might not keep to what my stand is, especially if that meant I needed to confront someone or like hold someone to account, maybe for a budget, or they were trying to get something by me and it was going to cause me to like confront them. That's where I kind of shy away a little bit.
Yeah. I love that you can see that. What is
I don't know what to do about it yet, really.
Just noticing is the first step.
Yeah.
So for me, what is expected? I would say I'm pretty high up there. I'm trying to think between you and I versus all other relationships. I'd say I'm like around 95%. I think it'd be interesting to have a follow-up conversation with you of like, quote unquote, are there any expectations that you have that I don't live up to, even though I know we communicate a lot about that. But I do think I'm pretty high up there about like really the relationships that I have, both with friends and with you, just like really wanting to step up to the plate and be the best person that in a sense they're expecting of me, because like you had said, the way I've shown up for them over time. And then lastly, what I stand for, I'd also say I'm pretty high up there, but not perfect. I'd say I'm like maybe 90%. I mean, I wake up truly wanting to make it the best day. I wake up with a good attitude. I want to show up the best for you, for Sky. I don't wake up all grumpy and complain.
You do switch in the mornings fast from whatever was going on before.
Yeah, and so I wake up like really like, who do I want to be? What do I stand for? I do think that with people I either meet or friends, like I could really even be more expressive of like what I believe and maybe sometimes challenge certain negative beliefs.
I mean, you do pretty well. You do a lot better than I do. You're lower on agreeableness.
That's true. I can challenge people for sure. I also know when to back off, right? Or like when is not the time. But yeah, and you guys, we're not trying to portray that we're these perfect human beings. Like we aren't. However, we do.
But to be honest, we've really focused on these numbers are pretty high.
Yeah.
So the takeaway again, individually, really, I want every partner to score yourself. And if you're not up at the 80 to 90+%, I just invite you to get off the defensiveness. Don't point it in the direction of your partner. Don't defend and justify and give excuses. It's not time for that. Unless you need to go clean up your side of the street with integrity. Where is your word from what you said, what you know to do, what's expected of you, and your stand? And maybe you don't have a stand. So get one, adopt one, and align your behavior to it. Once all that's in place, if your partner still has a bunch of problems and concerns and feedback and criticism, we can have a different conversation. But remember what I said. You're going to be able to do this from a grounded, centered place, which is a much better place to influence anyone.
Woo.
But again, if you're at all down at 50 or 60 or lower, man, you should not be justifying your actions and defending.
And remember, this is without excuses. You could list, well, it's because I'm tired. I've been working really hard. We just, we've just had our second baby. All of those are context. And of course, they are playing into the number of promises you can give. But that's what you have to be accountable to.
Right.
If you know your circumstances, you know what you're up against, then you have to, in a sense, re-promise, right? And really be clear with
Reset
people.
expectations.
Exactly.
They may need to be lower, but you need to be clear. Hey, this is the season I'm in. And for friends, like, I just want everyone to know, because you wouldn't say this, but I'm going to be integral, and I'm not going to have this expectation to show up as a friend when I know I can't. So are you just going to leave that go? And people are like, man, where did so-and-so go? I haven't seen him in the past 7 months. Or family, it's like you aren't around for them. You would be looking at that ahead of time. Say, hey, I'm going to manage the expectations around me. And I know I'm at a low capacity for this season. So I'm going to let people know, hey, I'm not going to be available as much for social gatherings.
Or this is my priority right now. I'm focused on this.
Yeah, totally.
Because sometimes you need to actually simplify in your life to really be great in the areas that are super important to you. And we would hope that your marriage is one of the top priorities, because it is really the foundation, the springboard to which everything else in your life can thrive.
Oh man, we're really hitting on some cylinders here. I think it would be better to reduce and increase your integrity levels.
Like reduce
if you gotta take things out of your life and you gotta reduce some activities, some engagements, some promises, reduce that until you can go to this scoreboard that we're talking about and get all of these numbers up to 80, 90%, then that's the time to look at where am I at? Where's my capacity? What is my stand? Maybe my stand now changes to, social relationships, right? So seasons and values change per those seasons. I would get integrity to 90% more or higher, and then you could see what you can add back.
So we hope you're just as fired up as we are, right? We want nothing more than for you to have a happy, healthy, thriving partnership, and this is a critical part of it. We know that there's a lot of new listeners, so make sure you hit the subscribe button so that you can hear past and future episodes. And if you enjoyed this, it helps us so much if you rate our show. Hopefully, you give us 5 stars because we really put our hearts and souls into this podcast for you. And again, if you're new here, go beyond just listening to these topics and getting motivated or feeling like it's a good idea and put it into action with our resources. We have so many options for you guys to really hit on exactly where you're wanting to grow in the relationship. So go to meetthefreemans.com/links and look at everything that we've got. But with that, we love you guys and we will talk to you on the next episode.